If you want Colts talk all year long, you're in the right place.
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown. He's going to fire upfield. It's broken up, tipped, and intercepted by the Colts.
This is the Official Colts Podcast, giving you an updated look at what's new with the Horseshoes.
Colts have it. Interception. 2 seconds left, and the Colts are going to win.
In the Indiana Union Construction Industry radio studio, let's get the podcast started.
It is a Thursday. We're back here on set on YouTube in the Official Colts Podcast. We're brought to you by Wynn Las Vegas on the Official Colts Podcast on a Thursday. Bill Brooks, the Ring of Honor member, Casey Vallier from the Colts Radio Network. I'm Matt Taylor. Thanks for coming back. Fellas, how we doing post-Halloween?
Doing well.
How many trick-or-treaters for you in the neighborhood?
Unfortunately, not many. I think we just had one family came by.
One?
Yeah, one family with 2 kids, and it was one of those things where I told them to kind of dip your hand into the bag
do
there.
we have to test the toughness of the kids in your neighborhood?
Might have
I know
to.
it was cold.
It was a little cold.
But
Might
it's
have
once
to.
a year.
I know. They didn't want to come out, I guess. But anyway, they dipped their hand into the bag, and one kid only got one out. And I was like, could take some more.
Come on, bro.
And he only got one out. And I said, hey, open your bag. I just started
Save
dumping
some more for Billy
yeah,
Brooks.
No. I just started dumping some in his bag and dumped some into his sister's bag. So they had quite a bit. But that was it. That's the only family that
Casey
came
was
by.
up till 5 a.m. because he was high on sugar with the kids' leftover nerds and sweet tarts.
Ours was a similar situation to Bill. We had more than just one, but so I live in it's a new build neighborhood. It just wrapped up all the houses about 3 or 4 months ago, and it's maybe got 40 houses total. Mm-hmm. So what I thought was that all of the families had they went to their previous Halloween location, not anticipating how many houses would be giving out stuff in the first real year of Halloween. Well, we did not expect that, so we bought way too much candy, and we have, let's just say, we could probably open up
You're
a
good
little
for Easter.
convenience store, and we could sell quite a bit of
He's
candy
good for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, we're good.
For Easter.
Don't you worry, we're good. And you know
Whatever.
what? Ultimately, I'm sure we have a bucket somewhere in the house that has candy from last year's Halloween and the previous
so much
Halloween.
candy in
So
our
we have so
house.
much candy. It's unreal.
We had Michael Myers driving around in a golf cart handing out candy. It
Really?
was, honestly, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
Because the guy rolls up, he's like driving right at us, got the mask on, just stoic. The mask is just, the one face.
yeah.
He's driving up. I'm like, oh, is this dude going to hit us? And then he just stops, swerves his golf cart, spins around, does a big wheelie, and just hands out candy, goes.
That's it?
In a Mike Myers costume. I'm like, this is awesome.
Didn't say anything?
Didn't say a word.
Well done.
Didn't say a word. Hand out like milk does and just drove off. It was spectacular. And then around 8:15, past probably the Halloween window, if you will, guy get a knock on the door. Some 13-year-old. You can tell he's going all out. It's his last year. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm a freshman in high school. He's got a trash bag full of candy,
my
legit,
goodness.
like a 20-gallon industrial trash bag just full of sugar. And I'm just like, dude, props to you. Because my kids are going to bed. And I'm here, I'm prepping on the Panthers, and he's asking for Skittles. It was awesome. So, yeah.
I wish that kid would have came by because he would have gotten all of our leftovers. Because that's the thing. I was talking with
He
one
didn't
of
even say a word, too. He just goes, here, hit the bag. I'm like,
Open
all
it
right.
up, huh?
Yeah,
No,
respect,
I was
brother.
talking with one of the guys that we went to the house, and he was like, please take as much candy as you want because we've already refilled our bucket with the candy we just got. I was like, isn't it a funny? It's a weird phenomenon. If you do have kids trick-or-treating, it's like you don't ever get rid of candy because you're just replenishing yourself
That's
after
exactly
you get
right.
back. And I was like, that's a really good point. We'll
It's like
take
that Jerry Seinfeld bit. I'll do anything for the candy. I can wear that.
who's handing it out?
Who's
Everyone
handing
we
it out?
know.
Everyone that we know. Take me with you. All right, finally, we're going to get to some football here. This is all about the Colts and the Panthers, I promise, in week number 9 on this holiday edition, post-holiday edition of the Official Colts Podcast. Also, later on in the podcast, we're going to be joined by Matt Gay, Colts kicker, having a phenomenal season, 14 out of 16 on his kicks. He's really only missed one all season because the other one got Miles Garretted.
Yeah,
that's a verb that I'm using after he just completely ran over or leapt over, I guess, the entire Colts offensive line on that play.
After he played that whole entire game, you could probably throw that in. That probably is
exactly
added to
right.
the
Yes.
dictionary for sure.
Yep, so the Colts trying to snap a 3-game skid. The Panthers are up next as the Colts fly away from Lucas Oil Stadium for the foreseeable future here. The month of November is going to be littered with road games, a game in Charlotte, then a game in Germany, then the bye week, come back the weekend after Thanksgiving and play a home game. But that's really about it for the month of November in terms of Lucas Oil Stadium action. But to begin here, boys, we're going with 4-down territory. We're leading off with 4-down territory. The Colts have 16 fourth-down attempts on the season, tied for the second most in the NFL. So let's go. Let's go for it here right out of the gate. Let's talk about the top 4 storylines for the Colts and the Panthers on Sunday. The first topic here is I'm calling it Stop the Bleeding. Bill, the Colts are on a 3-game slide. They're now 3-5 on the season. Started off so promising. It feels like 2 years ago, seemingly, when the Colts played the Jaguars and first place in the AFC South was on the line. And right now, the Colts are in last place in the division with this losing streak here. And as we said, the Colts have a couple of road games coming up here. What you guys were both inside the locker room earlier this week. What is the mood of the team? What are guys saying? How are players going about this week mentally trying to turn the season around and get this ship righted before the bye week, which comes in about 2 weeks?
Well, I think the guys, of course, are disappointed in their record and disappointed in maybe the performance out there in the football field. Right now, they're saying the right things. They're saying all the things they need to say, and they're just thinking about the next game. The thing about the National Football League, you play a week, you always have an opportunity to rectify that if you had a bad week previously. So they're looking forward to the opportunity next week, this upcoming week against the Panthers, to hopefully change that. In order to change that, you don't think about being 5-5 at going into the bye, hopefully winning these next 2 games. You think about how can we beat the Panthers? And I think that's their mindset right now. I know it's cliche, 1 game at a time, but that's the only thing they can do. They can't think about the rest of the season. They have to think about this upcoming game against the Carolina Panthers.
No, I agree with Bill. I think the mood in the locker room is right where it probably should be. They're disappointed, and they're probably more just looking at themselves in the mirror going, how are we here? Because if you look at what this team has done, I know defensively we've seen the 37 points allowed over the last 3 games, but in total I would say the team has played pretty well. And there's a handful of spots you look at and go, wow, if you do that, typically you win a game. You do that, typically you win a game. So there is a lot of good that has come from this. So there is some positives you can take. Now you got to clean up a handful of things like you will every week. But I think it's one of those that it's a 3-game slide where you don't look at it and go, we got blown out 3 straight weeks. You look at it and go, if we change a couple things here and there, we improve in this area.
You're just finding out that the margin of error is razor thin.
That's where it is, the margin of it. And it's with almost every team in the league. I mean, week in and week out, the whole adage of any given Sunday, like it is so true in the league. I would think that the parity across the NFL is very, very thin. And that's one of the things that I think we've really started to see over this 3-game slide is that you improve a couple areas here, and all of a sudden that could be a 3-game winning streak that you're on. I know last week maybe was a little bit more out of hand, but ultimately you're right there in a lot of these situations.
Yeah, I'm going to paraphrase here, but I loved what Zaire Franklin had to say this week. And people said, yeah, you're 3-5, you're on a 3-game losing skid, but listen, you got 9 games left. You're fine. Anything can happen. And while that's true, Zaire said, dude, that's bull blank. Like, it's time to go.
Yeah.
Like, you can't use that as a crutch. You can't use that as something to fall back onto. Yeah, the math says this isn't a must-win game and all of that stuff. And I know you're not the must-win guy. But I'm with Zaire. Like, it's time to go. Like, if you want to get this season back on the right track, it starts with, and we'll talk about it, no disrespect to the Panthers, it starts with dominating a 1-6 team.
They're 1-6.
Flying to Germany to get back to 500 before the bye week, and then get on this stretch run in late November and December when every team kind of hits a different gear going into the playoffs, trying to make a playoff push. Let's go to 2nd down on our 4-down territory here. You talked about it, the point total on defense. What's wrong with this defense? The Colts, they gave up 511 yards to the Saints in a game last week where prior to that game against the Colts, the Saints hadn't racked up more than 350 yards of offense all season long. As you said, the Colts, they've allowed at least 37 points in 3 straight games. First time they've done that since 2018. And we dug this up, Casey, because it kind of just – it's one of those things where you're going down a rabbit hole and it just punches you in the face in terms of the harsh reality. Since week 11 of last year, when the season kind of spiraled out of control for the Colts. Since week 11 of the 2022 season, Bill, the Colts are giving up an average of 30.2 points per game, which is last in the NFL. What are the biggest problems on defense right now? I know they got a problem up front without Grover Stewart, and certainly in the secondary, they're trying to figure out their best matchups of personnel.
To me, looking at it from the beginning of the season to now, it's usually they give them the big plays, big chunk plays, and there's receivers, go back to the first game of the season with Calvin Ridley. You go to Nico Collins. You go to Puka with the Rams. Mm-hmm. These guys are having big games against the Colts, and they give up these big yards. They do well for a portion of the game, but then all of a sudden there's a big play. Last week, the big plays to Shaheed down the field. Big touchdown, big catch on third down near the end of the game to seal the game for the Saints. So we're getting up the big plays. Have to limit those big explosive plays against the defense. And then hopefully in the fourth quarter, slow teams down and shut them down in the fourth quarter so that, it gives your offense a chance to win football games.
Yeah, when the game is on the line, those type of drives, we saw it against Cleveland. Obviously, it was riddled with questionable calls and penalties on the Colts, but it wasn't necessarily a game-winning drive for the Saints, but it was a game-sealing drive, 3rd and 13, and they go over the top, and Shaheed – He did what he had done all game long to the Colts. That's the type of drive that I think Bill is talking about. Those closeout drives or those we got to get the ball back type of drives. That's where the Colts are coming up short.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit last week. Make a stop, and I don't feel like we have seen that. We haven't seen when. I mean, and it's one of those things we got so used to. Before last year, it was almost like you just waited for where's the turnover happening because it's going to come.
Yeah.
And I think over what we saw last year and where we are now, the lack of causing turnovers defensively, it really does put a big impact on, the rest of what your defense looks like. I mean, you saw it last year. They didn't create a lot of turnovers, and we saw what happened with the defense, and I feel like we're in that same little boat this year where the defense is playing in spots like they have in years past, and then in that spot where they're creating, like 3rd and 13, you want to see a guy get home. Like, you want to see, hey, you know what? We're going to put Carr down, and it's going to be, you're going to punt to us, and we're going to have an opportunity. Instead, it's another big play. We saw that. P.J. Walker, 3rd and 10, you create a 30-yard pass down the line. This is before those penalties that everybody talks about.
Yeah.
That was the big, I mean, it's those times where you need to stop, and I don't feel like this defense is getting that. Now, this is not at all a stab at the defense because I think there are a lot of really good players on this team that can make those plays. We just haven't seen it come to fruition. I mean, guys like Zaire Franklin, DeForest Buckner, they're more than capable of making these plays. It just hasn't happened.
Yeah, the Colts obviously trying to figure out what their best personnel lineup is in the secondary. They've tried Darrell Baker Jr. Obviously, they went away from him last week. Tried Tony Brown on the outside. Listen, we know Juju Brents isn't coming back, at least not this week. He's not going to practice all week, which means he's probably going to miss another game. They haven't officially made that announcement yet, but that's likely coming. So you can either move, your options are you can move Tony Brown to nickel, kick Kenny Moore outside. I know the Colts coaching staff is reluctant to do that because of how much they like and prefer Kenny Moore to play nickel. That's understandable. You can play Kenny on the outside, possibly move Julian Blackmon down to nickel. He did that last year in a pinch when Kenny Moore was injured towards the end of the season. You could play Nick Cross at one of the safety spots if you do that. So they do have options, but they're just trying to figure out that best option because right now, the last couple of instances where they've been without Juju Brents, it's obviously been tough to make plays consistently in the back end with Derek Carr, throwing for over 300 yards. All right, 3rd down. Is it Taylor time? Is it Jonathan Taylor time? I think we all kind of know what I'm getting at that because the Colts, they had 110 rushing yards in the first half against the Saints. They only ran it 6 times in the second half. It was kind of hard for the Colts to generate some yards on the ground in the second half because they only had the ball for just over 10 minutes. They were kind of backed up in terms of down and distance and field position in that second half. But listen, Jonathan Taylor's going into his 5th game, Bill, since he's been activated off of PUP. Both Moss and Taylor, they're running the ball very effectively. Both guys were over 6 yards per carry against the Saints. But is it time for Jonathan Taylor to be the biggest focal point of this offense going forward and everything kind of reacting off of that based on how well teams are able to slow down number 28?
I look at it as I think they should continue to do what they're doing and continue to ramp up JT, give him more carries. I'm not saying he needs to get a whole lot more carries because, as we saw, Zach Moss broke off a nice run against the Saints. Yeah. So he still is very effective out there running the football and doing the things that he can do, especially between the tackles. So I look at trying to get the ball to JT a little bit more. It might be in the passing game a little bit. So I think definitely need to get some more touches for JT, but I don't think it needs to be an overhaul of having JT take 90% of the carries and then have someone come in for relief for him. But I just think they need to maybe continue to ramp it up to let JT get more touches in the game.
Let me ask you this for both of you guys. I'll start with you first, Casey. Hypothetically, if Jonathan Taylor is getting let's just say he gets 20, 25 carries per game on Sunday against Carolina, would that cut down on the turnovers? Because the Colts, they only had the one turnover on Sunday, but it was costly. The Saints turned that into 7 points, and that kept the Colts behind the 8 ball in the second half. Would that cut down on the turnovers? But in doing that, it's kind of catch-22, right? Because then you would potentially also miss out on some of the big plays that Josh Downs is giving you, that Michael Pittman Jr. is giving you, so on and so forth.
Yeah, that is a tough question because I agree with kind of everything you're saying. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that because that's ultimately I think that's what everybody anticipates Jonathan getting. You say 20 to 25, that's kind of where you expect him to be. And I'm kind of playing devil's advocate a little bit with Zach Moss because if you look at where he is in the league right now, he's second in the league in rushing.
Yeah.
So he has earned his spot. So it's hard to say that you have to just pencil in 28 to get it every series because what Zach Moss has done, it's justified him getting these reps. I think ultimately maybe what it is you're giving them both, whether it's 25 for Taylor and maybe that means 12 to 15 for Zach Moss. Yeah, you're eliminating the pass, but I think what you do in that is we have seen this running game has been very effective. And running the football, it also adds to that time of possession. And I think that is part of the issue we have seen with the defense being on the field so much. That's why you're seeing a lot of these points, a lot of these big plays and all this stuff with the defense. I think it's kind of twofold. It might help out everybody else too if you're giving the football a lot more to these guys. And it also might create a defense to be a little bit more lazy or, really go all in on the run. And maybe then that would open up, some of those. So it's a really tough, place to be because I understand what you're saying. I don't know the answer. Clearly, if I knew the answer, I'm sure Shane would know the answer too, and we would have all these answers. They would all be, you'd see it on the field. But I would anticipate Jonathan getting more and more, but I don't think it.
I think you're already seeing it kind of organically. I mean,
right.
Moss last week played a season-low 39% of the snaps. In his first 4 games, I mean, obviously Jonathan Taylor's still on PUP, but in the first 4 games, Moss averaging 22 carries per game. He's averaging just 12 in the last 3. So it's happening organically where Jonathan Taylor is starting to become the focal point of this running game. And Bill, despite the numbers with the Panthers not being very good at all at being able to stop the run, they're going to be hell-bent on playing that bare front, those pinched-in defensive tackles. They're going to say, we're not going to get beat today by the Colts running game. That's why I asked you the question of, okay, just let Jonathan Taylor be the focal point. That's what you want to do. That's what you want to establish. But everything after that sort of dovetails on how well a team is stopping Jonathan Taylor and allowing the Colts offense, which it has been very explosive for 11 and 1 and 14 on the outside, making catches down the field.
Yeah, you have to let them do that, and then you have to pretty much take what they're going to give you. I mean, if they want to try to stop the run, well, Josh Downs is making plays. Pittman's making plays. You also could put the ball in Jonathan Taylor's hands, and as far as a receiver, as a receiving back out of the backfield, do some different things with him. So I think let him get his touches, but his touches doesn't have to always be running the ball. Get him some touches, maybe catching some passes out in the open field, so he can use his speed and his elusiveness out there out in the open field. So I would just like to see that to continue to ramp up, so to speak, as far as getting the ball, but not always just in the running game.
All right, let's go 4th down territory. 4th down. Frank Reich Frank Reich versus the Colts. We all remember Frank is a tremendous guy, unbelievable coach, unbelievable human being. Was with the Colts from 2018 to 2022. 41 wins with the Colts, took him to 2 playoff berths, won at least 10 games in 2 seasons in 2018 and 2020. But he also hired Gus Bradley. He hired the Colts defensive coordinator. So he knows this defense just about as well as Gus knows the defense. And he allowed Gus to hire the staff that's predominantly here still on that side of the ball. And Ron Miles and Richard Smith and Cato Junes, just to name a few. What changes, Bill, do the Colts have to make on defense to help disguise some things for Frank, who's going to be all over this defense, ins and outs, and from a basic principle standpoint?
Well, I'm going a little old school here. I'm going back to what Tony Dungy said one time a few years back, and he said that, you know what, this is what we do. We play this type of defense. We're going to do it, and we're going to play it, and we're going to play it fast, and we're just going to minimize our mistakes. And I think that's the same thing the Colts are going to have to do. Play your defense. Yes, you do have to do some things a little bit differently because you do have tendencies. Every team has tendencies. So there are tendencies that we have from a defensive standpoint that you need to tweak a little bit to show him something a little bit different. So he is going to need to do something a little bit different. Yeah. You know, if it's bringing pressure, if it's whatever it may be, do something a little bit different on certain downs and distance. But for the most part, do what you do, just do it better, and go out there and execute it, and make sure that you can. You know what the Panthers are going to do. Stop them. You have a game plan. You know Thielen's one of the best players on the team. They're going to try to get the ball to Thielen, things like that. Hubbard, the main runner back there. So you know what they're going to do. You know Bryce Young, what he does back there in the pocket. He's a guy that's mobile. Do some things that's going to slow those guys down from being effective on offense.
I mean, whatever they do, Casey, you got to take away Adam Thielen. He's got 57 catches on the season. I'm not saying he's the only guy they've got on offense, but he's the only guy they've got on offense. The next closest guy in terms of catches is Jonathan Mingo with 19. So you have to have a plan for Adam Thielen. If the Colts get beat by Adam Thielen in this game, that's going to be a hard one to swallow because you knew going in he's really the only guy that can be dangerous.
You know, Adam Thielen, this is just a sidebar a little bit. I was shocked to see the stats that he's put up just because, and this is, I mean, I got to tip my cap to Thielen because honestly I thought he's a veteran guy. They brought him in because they're getting a rookie quarterback, and he's just kind of help him, kind of what like Reggie Wayne was for Andrew Luck. You know, it's not necessarily like you're going to be our go-to guy. You just, on a key third down, you know, maybe you get 3 or 4 catches a game because I thought that's what Adam Thielen was. I thought he was towards the end of his career.
Yes.
But, boys, he proved me wrong. I mean, he's 7th in the league in receptions. I mean, this guy is playing like he was back in 2018-19 with the Vikings. Yeah. And you're spot on with that. I mean, if you're looking at this Panthers team and it's not Thielen, and then stop Thielen for a 4th time, I don't know what else you're looking at because that is ultimately what their offense is. We've seen Bryce Young. Yes, he had a storied college career. He looks like he has all the pieces to be a really good quarterback in the NFL. Right now, he hasn't shown all of that. There are still quirks he's trying to tweak with and all of this. So you got to go in and you got to make sure that this guy feels like a rookie. Show him things you haven't seen. And this goes back to Frank Reich knows Gus Bradley, but Gus Bradley knows Frank Reich.
Exactly.
So it's kind of a twofold thing where Gus is going to know in a way. I know that the offense is going to be different because the personnel is different. It's a different play caller, all of that. But for the most part, you're going to be familiar with what Carolina's going to do offensively. So, yes, you're spot on with Adam Thielen. He's a guy that I got to say, really impressed by what Adam Thielen has done. I thought this was kind of his swan song, go to a nice place instead of Minnesota where it's cold. You go out to Carolina.
It's on vacation.
Yeah,
warm,
pretty place.
Get some sun.
This is not it at all. I mean, he's putting a case for a Pro Bowl season. Yeah. So, you know, impressive by Thielen, but you're spot on. He is the guy to stop.
And get after Bryce Young. They're giving up an average of 3.5 sacks per game. He was taken down 6 times last week by the Houston Texans. Get after him. Get off to a good start. Put him behind the 8 ball early. Generate some momentum. That's the recipe for success for the Colts on Sunday. Speaking of momentum, a guy who's trying to carry that momentum from a great season so far into week number 9 in Carolina. That's Matt Gay. He's the Colts kicker. As promised, he's going to join us. He's only missed 2 kicks all season. Mr. Clutch joins us here on the Official Colts Podcast. We're joined in studio by Colts kicker Matt Gay, Mr. Automatic, Mr. Consistency, Mr. Clutch, all of the above here with us. Matthew, how we doing today, man? Thanks for the time.
Of course. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate
Absolutely. Now, before we go further, I know we have different mediums here. We're on video on YouTube, but of course the audio portion on the Colts Audio Network. You got to tell us what's going on here. You got some remnants from Halloween there. You got some
we
fake
got a couple
tattoos.
leftovers. The costume was supposed to be the Viking.
Okay.
So we got tatted up. I found these on Amazon. They're actually pretty good. I mean, I got a couple neck tattoos.
I thought you spent the off day at the ink chair.
Yesterday, you would have thought. I mean, everyone was asking me. Those are like
They look real.
people were looking around. Like,
They look good.
tatted. I got a couple questions though. I mean, they're from Amazon. The quality's there. I mean, I got a full sleeve, and a couple neck tattoos that are hanging out still. But
What did the wife say about it?
first she was a little like, "Oh, you're the old," but she's coming on to him a little bit. I think she's liking them. She's like, "It's a shame they're gonna."
Did she
come
know
off.
that they were fake, or did
Yeah.
she think you came home with some inspiration?
She definitely knew they were fake.
All right.
I don't think I have no tattoos
Yeah.
that are real, and so I think for me to be aggressive and go get the neck tattoo and the sleeve. I think for the first tattoos.
That's
would've been
awesome. Now, are you a big Halloween guy? Like, what did you do on Halloween? Did you go all out?
Yeah, we went all out. We were had the decorations up, got the kids dressed up all day long.
Awesome.
I sold out. I got all the good candy for them. A little disappointed that it was so cold that we didn't get a lot of trick-or-treaters because I had the king size. I got all of them. Excuse me.
You're good.
Was gonna hand out 2 or 3 per kid, and
Yeah.
I don't even think we got through the first bowl. I mean, I have so much leftover candy.
Well, what the heck are we doing? Why didn't you bring it to the
Should've brought it.
podcast?
I really should have. I'm going like I'm sneaking to the closet 5 times a day and
Oh,
pulling the
man.
candy bar out. And so
And it's tempting. You got to have some self-discipline here in the month of
I have
November,
zero.
in the early part of the schedule
I'm eating
here.
all of it, so it's no good.
All right, well, let's talk some ball here. You are having, like I said, you're having a terrific season on the year. You are 14 for 16 on field goals, 5 over 6 over 50. I'm saying you're having a great year. I know that you are your harshest critic. How do you feel like the year's going?
Yeah, I mean it's been pretty solid. I'd say I'm a little disappointed. The one I missed against LA is 47.
Yeah.
And I mean it's just such a makeable kick.
Yeah.
I mean, I for sure should have made that one. And then as a kicker, you hate that blocks go against you.
Yeah.
And so you kind of look at that one.
I think the same thing. I think that should be its own category.
It's so hard to differentiate between
Yeah.
what's your fault and what's not.
Sure.
Like, is it a low kick? Is it this and that? And so you look at them. I've looked at that kick that Miles get. I've looked at it and I'm like, is there any way that I'm making this? And,
Miles Garrett is in your face mask as you're trying to kick that ball.
yeah, that's a big dude standing.
Yeah.
I apologize.
That's all
3
right.
yards away from you, and so it's tough to differentiate between. My voice just completely changed with this.
That's all right.
This will be good for the viewers. So I hate that. I mean, that it'd take a lot to go in to be like, this was his fault. This wasn't his fault. We don't count this against him. We do this on this guy. So I understand it, but I mean, the one against LA really is the one that I look back and be like, I mean, I should have made that kick. Yeah. And so that's the one that kind of sits there and eats at you. So, but I mean, overall, pretty solid. So.
Have you ever had anyone do what Miles Garrett did that game? I mean, previously when you kicked with other teams, or
I mean, you've seen guys do it in the past. I mean, you used to be able to run up and jump over, and they changed the rules.
Yeah.
So now you have to be on the line of scrimmage, and to do that and jump over. I mean, guys have attempted it. I mean, normally if you get any piece of a guy, if you snag their toe or their foot, it's throwing them off balance. And to be able to get back in the ground and jump back up is very, very difficult. So credit to that dude. I mean, he's just he's an absolute freak of nature. To be able to do that at 6'6", 280, 285, whatever he is, I mean, is unbelievable. But I've never had a block like that.
Yeah.
Now, Rigo Sanchez is your holder. He does a lot, obviously. He's been here for a long time.
Yeah.
Great guy. He's a great holder. He's a great punter. But how much is he helping you have a great season so far?
Oh, he's awesome. I mean, he's been able to be able to, like, I mean, right when I got here, every kicker's different with how they like the lean and the holds and stuff. And so right from the get-go, he was awesome being able to, like, hey, what do you like? Let me learn it. Let me figure it out. And him and Luke are just workhorses. And so they get a bunch of – they're constantly getting snaps and be able to figure it out, and being able to tell him, like, with different conditions, hey, lean it a little this way, he's been awesome. And so just having the camaraderie and just being cool dudes to be able to get along with, I mean, it is sweet. It's good to have with Luke and Rigo.
All right, going along with that, for you, because every kicker's different. You all have your different skill sets and anatomy, if you will, in terms of how you attack the ball and what your strengths are. For you, can you define the perfect hold?
I would say straight up and down as far as backward or forward. I don't want it leaning backwards toward me. I like it. I don't know. Some kickers like it lean forward.
Okay.
I like it straight up and down. And then for me, I like just slight. I mean, if we're not no conditions, no wind, we're indoors, slight lean to the right.
Okay. And why is that?
Just with a right-footed kicker, the way you come in, the angle. You don't want, if the ball is straight up and down, it'll generally roll off the ankle, cause a double hit, and that's where you get the X balls or an ankle ball that goes left. And so if it's lean just a little bit, it'll roll off the foot. So it rolls off, it avoids the ankle and rolls off the foot pretty good. And then for me, my miss hit is generally a toe ball as opposed to an ankle ball. So I hit it lower on my foot, hit a toe ball. And if that ball is leaning more straight up and down as opposed to like a toe ball with a lot of right lean for the camera, a lot of right lean for me, the tip of the ball is what causes the rotation. So a toe ball, when you don't hit it clean, it'll start to drift right. So for me, if that ball is leaning just a little bit, that toe ball generally stays true and stays straight over 50-ish yards. And so it'll generally still make it through if I do hit the toe.
Sure. And people think you're just a kicker.
Yeah, no.
You know, just kick the ball. No, I'm serious. I'm fascinated by this.
No, that's
fascinating. All the science that goes into it. Really.
And talking about that, when you get to a stadium, a visiting stadium like this week, what is your routine when you go to make a kick and warm up to determine your preferential direction you want to kick and also the distance that you can kick going that way?
Yeah, that gets into, like, I mean, you get out there pregame, and so you get out there. I try not to look too much into the weather during the week.
Okay.
Anything as opposed to, like, it's going to be cold. Okay, it's going to be cold. I know, like, hey, I'm probably going to wear something. But I don't change unless it's really, really bad conditions. I don't change my cleats. I don't change anything like that. So, because the weather can be so misleading sometimes. Hey, until you get there and you really can get out there on the field and figure out what you're getting, I don't really try to look too much into it. So I get there, I get out on the field, see what I'm dealing with, and then pregame, it's just being able to get out there and hit different kicks and see what the ball's doing, see if it's blowing left or right, and then from there, I mean, then you talk to Rigo and say, hey, it's a really heavy wind, let's change the lean or let's do some different things. And then if it's in your face, you obviously try and have the benefit of going with the wind in the second quarter or fourth quarter. And then just trusting your pregame and trusting your process when you get out there for a kick. I mean, to do all the work pregame and say, hey, it's going left or right, and then being able to trust that when you get out there is the big thing. Like, hey, this ball's going to move right, and I got to play it a little left and let the wind do its thing and trust that it's going to do that.
That's Matt Gay with us, Colts kicker. Now, you read about kickers all the time, and you know, some guys say, I got to put on my left sock first, and I got to put on my pants a certain way. Or before they run out before a kick, they got a rabbit's foot they smuggled from the locker room to rub before they, go out for a kick. Do you have anything like that? Or how superstitious are you?
I wouldn't say I'm superstitious. I'm a little stitious.
Michael Scott.
For the Michael Scott. I am a little stitious. There are certain things, like you get on a streak, and so you wear the same cleats. You don't want to change. Yeah. I'm not too big into and a lot of that stuff. I mean, I grew up playing soccer, and so I kind of have a cleat addiction. And so I wear a bunch of different cleats, and I'll switch them out. And so I've worn different cleats and things like that. The only really thing that I try to do is, I mean, right before the game, I get out on the field for warm-ups. I call my wife. I FaceTime my wife and my kids from the field.
Awesome. Okay. Very cool.
And so I show my kids the field, and we talk to her, and then after warm-ups and stuff, right, when we come in for the game with like 30-ish minutes before the game, I call her again.
Awesome.
And we talk to her, and she asked me how warm-ups go, and we just chat about it. And so I see the kids, and then that's pretty much it. And then before I go out for warm-ups, I always, right before I get on the field, I always take a knee and say a little prayer.
Sure.
And that's pretty much the superstition that kind of goes into it.
That's just your routine that gets you in your right headspace.
Yeah, that gets me in a little space. Is just being able to, just perspective on things. You know?
Sure, absolutely.
You go out there for this thing, but if I can have a grounding in what matters, my life, my family, my kids, that's the stuff that really kind of keeps you grounded. And so you can go out there at the end of the day, let it all hang loose on the field, and you can live with what happens.
Yeah, well done.
Now, you talked about getting in your space before the game. Mm-hmm. I think I heard you talk about when you go to kick a game winner, like in Baltimore, you got in a blackout mode.
Yep.
What's blackout mode for you?
It's a state where you're just not – there's nothing going on in your mind. Like you're just in rhythm. You're out there. You're just swinging the leg. For me, on a lot of those kicks, a lot of the good kicks, I don't really remember much from what happened from the snap. So the snap happens, and then next thing you know, I'm kind of like in my finish, and I'm looking up, and the ball's going. I don't remember the ball hitting my foot.
That's great. Said you.
I don't remember anything kind of going.
Like outside your body, so to speak? Or?
Yeah, you're kind of just outside the body.
You're there, but you're not there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And some people think it's like a increased zone of focus but it's kind of hard for me to understand that, because increased zone of focus would make me feel like I'd be so low, like I would know what the ball looks like. I would know this, and so it's different for me when I more relate to like the basketball players or Michael, when you say like, oh, he's unconscious, like he can't miss, and you're kind of like you're not in your own, get out of your own way type of thing.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm just letting my body do what I've trained and do what I know how to do. And again, I just don't really remember.
You're not thinking about, I need to place my plant foot here and hit the ball here. You just go and just do it.
Yeah. Just going and doing, the other thing, over analysis to a paralysis. Like you think about too many things, you can't go and perform. Like if I'm trying to place the ball through the uprights, it's not going to end up very well, as opposed to just like picking a spot and swinging away. Yeah. When you try to like place it, then you don't swing as hard, and you take things off, and things change, and that's when things miss hits and stuff like that come into play. And so I just try to, I don't know, just get in that zone and just swing.
I don't think I've ever been in that zone. I really don't. Swing away. I mean, the way you're describing it is why you are where you are. You are an elite athlete, an elite player at your position. That's why Bill and I, Bill, you're in the Ring of Honor. That's why I'm sitting here on the couch. All right, that's why I'm doing a podcast right now. There's no doubt about that. Now, the Myles Garrett play aside, the Colts roll you out for a 60-yard field goal, which means they think you can make it. How much confidence does that give you when it comes to their confidence in you? Like, right, confidence is earned, but it's also received. I mean, the fact that the Colts were going to kick a 50 or a 60-yard field goal with you, I'm blown away because of their trust and their confidence level and your ability to do that.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, normally you don't field position such a huge thing in football, and so normally those positions you're going to try and, especially, it's not end of half, not end of the game. It's the middle of the game.
That means they're going to get the ball if you miss it at the 50.
Second quarter.
Right.
And so for them to go out there and send me out for that gives me a lot of confidence. I think some of the stuff's play the game and what happens on the stuff before. I think we were a couple yards. We probably would have been at 55 or 54 before that. End up taking a sack. And so I think in their minds they're already thinking field goal and then take the sack. And so I don't know how much goes into like, hey, we already had field goal up, call field goal. And so for me, the sideline, I see the sack, and I'm thinking, okay, we might punt here, and they still go field goal. And so for me, I'm just like, let's go. I'm stoked to go kick a 60.
Right.
I hit it good, too. It's so good.
Well, you hit it right to Myles Garrett.
Yeah, hit it right to his hands. Gosh, that's one of those things where you just know it came off the foot good. And so that's
so that was going to be good.
Now I'm getting in my feels.
Yeah. I'm saying you made the field goal. I'm saying that was going to be good.
But I think it's a lot of confidence to have them, send you out there and trust you, and so you gain confidence from all those situations, those things. So.
All right, now going along with that, when do you start? When do you start to get up? What I mean by that is like when the Colts have the ball, when they're on offense. When do you start to get antsy? Is it when they cross the 50? Or what's the line of demarcation on the field when you start to psychologically get ready for a potential kick?
Generally, me and Rigo, we have the net on the sideline.
Yeah.
And we kind of are both kicking the same way into the net. And so generally when we're backed up or in our own territory, he's punting. And I'm just chilling. I'm sitting down. I'm hanging out. and then generally across the 50 is when we make the switch, and I start kicking into the net. He starts getting a couple holds. So, and then that's just like I get a kick on first down, second down, third down, probably another one. And then I go stand on the sideline. It's like, all right, got a first down. Cool. I go back to the net, hit another one. Third down again, hit another one. The first down. So it's like the drive, you just kind of staying ready, staying warm. For me, I mean, that's the biggest battle is staying warm throughout the game.
Sure.
Because, I mean, we get out there probably 2 hours before the game. So we're 6 hours probably total of just kicking and staying warm. And so just being able to keep the leg fresh, ready to go out there. You don't want to go out there cold for a kick. And so
no doubt.
Being able to hit a couple in the net and go, and then obviously third down, numbers called, you run out there and
just go.
Try and make a kick. Yeah, try and make a kick. So
that's good. Now, this is your second stint with the Colts. What have you learned about yourself as a kicker in the National Football League from the first time you were here after you've gone to the Rams and other teams?
I always say my time here in Indy, the first time I was here, was probably one of the most important times for me in my whole career because I went through my rookie year in Tampa.
Yeah.
Up and down rookie year. A lot of, good, a lot of bad. End the year on a bad note there. Go through the next preseason. They cut me. And there was a lot of stuff going on in Tampa that probably just wasn't great for me as opposed to my own self and just like the thing that I was doing. And so when I left Tampa, made a couple changes. As far as technique goes and things go that I was working on. And when I left Tampa, it was actually I don't know. It was just more like a relief type thing, honestly. It was kind of like, wow. Okay. Like, I feel like I was trying to be someone else and they were trying to make me be someone else, mold me into something, as opposed to like me just kind of doing my thing and kicking how I want to kick and perform on my own headspace. So when I got here to be on practice squad and being able to have them, have confidence in me, being able to honestly just kick throughout the week without the stress and pressure of going out on Sundays. To just be able to work on things throughout the week and be able to go out there and like have guys like, tell you, you're doing a good job. And being able to work through some things and be able to kind of kick free was for 8-ish weeks and something like that was really important for me to, I think, gain confidence and get back to where I was and work through a couple things without say they signed me and I was active that week to go out there and kick on Sunday and be like, still trying to tweak a couple things or go out there after kind of what happened in Tampa. I think that time off for me to be able to work on things was huge. And so by the time I got the call from LA and went to LA, I'd perfected and
you were ready.
Was ready to actually go back out on the field and game some of the stuff that I'd been working on and the confidence that I've been building.
Based on that time you spent on the Colts practice squad during that 2020 season, how much did that time influence or play a part in your decision to want to come back to the Colts in free agency this past offseason?
I think it's huge. I think you make connections when you're here. I think you have relationships. You have, I think things changed in 3 years, but you have some familiarities, some familiar faces in the building.
Sure.
I knew Luke. I knew Rigo. Chris was still the GM, and so that played a big part with him and my agent. And he knew Chris knew me, and he's seen film on me, and so I think that played a big part in being able to be like, okay, well, if this does happen, maybe Indy's gonna come. I've been there before. They know me. And so I think that plays a big part into making those decisions. Is we've been there before. We somewhat know the area-ish and have some familiar faces in the building. That was kind of all key critical moments as opposed to just going to a completely new situation. I think you feel a little bit more comfortable coming to a place where you did a little stint and know a couple people and have a few familiar faces.
Oh, Matt, you're an amazing guy. You have a great story. I could sit here all day and talk ball with you, talk about your background in Utah and playing soccer, the switch to football. But Mr. Automatic here, he's 14 out of 16, like we said, 5 over 6 over 50, but really he's 6 over 6 because the Myles Garrett asterisk there. But he's not superstitious. He's a little stitious. Remember that now. That's Matt Gay here with us in studio. Matthew, thank you so much for the time. Always a pleasure to sit and talk ball with you, and good luck on Sunday.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks again to Matt Gay. Awesome conversation. I mean, I'm not joking. I could spend another hour talking to him about the science of kicking and how he's gotten to where he is and his background in Utah. Just
that was fun.
Tremendous guy.
That was
really
fun.
Good conversation. I love talking to those specialists because they're kind of out of sight, out of mind for most of the game until they're needed.
Exactly.
And then, they come up clutch. I was not going to bring this up in front of him because I'm not a big believer in jinxing, and I don't know if Matt was or is, so I didn't want to do this in front of him. But Matt Gay has made 24 consecutive field goals on the road, and the Colts go on the road in each of the next 2 games. He has not missed a field goal as a member of the away team, either with the Colts or with the Rams, since Week 17 of 2021. Okay, I'm not a jinx guy, so don't at me on Sunday if the Colts miss a field goal. I don't want to hear it because me talking has nothing to do with the outcome of someone's actions, all right? It's just –
Really?
Let's live in
really?
No.
Come on.
No. I am not a jinx guy. But I want to respect Matt if he is.
I agree with you on that.
All right, let's close it out. Colts, Panthers, week number 9. Let's call our shot. Some walk-off predictions here about the game on Sundays. The Colts are trying to get back on the right track and snap this 3-game losing skid. Casey Vallier, I'm going with you, then Bill, then me. I want your guarantees. Give me one guarantee about the Colts and Panthers on Sunday.
My one guarantee is the Colts run the ball. They run the ball effectively. They win time of possession. You see Jonathan Taylor have maybe 2 touchdowns. He has 1 touchdown on the year. I know he's itching to get back in the end zone.
I need a solid guarantee.
Okay.
Proclaim.
I'm saying Jonathan Taylor runs for 145 and 2 scores, and the Colts win handily on Sunday.
All right, Bill.
Wow. My guarantee.
Not very good against the run, are the Panthers?
No, they're
FYI.
not.
My guarantee, Colts score minimum 24 points.
Okay.
And Josh Downs has a touchdown.
All right.
Back in his North Carolina area.
Oh, yeah. Good
Great call.
Yes.
Great call. The Tar Heel going back home. My guarantee, this is kind of soft, but it's kind of big picture. The Panthers are going to play their you-know-what off for Frank Reich. That's my guarantee.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Those guys are going to bring it. They're going to bust their tails. It's going to be a dogfight. I know they're 1-6. I know they've been outscored by 72 points on the season. I know they've lost 4 games by double figures, but this is the NFL. Anything can happen any given Sunday, and you know those guys. Frank's not going to come out and say it because that's not Frank's way.
Exactly.
That's not how he's wired. But every leader within that Panthers locker room is going to galvanize the troops and say, guys, we won last week. We got a little bit of momentum. Let's get this done for our head coach who was fired in the middle of the season last year by the team we're playing on Sunday that's coming into our house. They're going to be fired up. That stadium's going to be going nuts. I guarantee they give everything they have to beat the Colts. And you know what Frank's doing? He's doing what he did in 2018. The Colts were 1-5. They got on a roll. They were 1-4 to start 2021. They got on a roll. Like Frank's. I don't want to say he's used to this, but he knows.
He's been there before. He's been there before.
Still think, listen, the NFC South is maybe the worst division in football. It's not hyperbole. It's not out of the question to say that at 1-6 they still have a chance to get 100% and win their division. That's what he's preaching to this locker room, and I guarantee you those guys are believing it, and they're going to bust their tails to beat the Colts.
No, completely agree. Yeah. And that's, you said about Frank. I mean, this isn't a stab. This is comfort zone. I mean, slow starts is kind of what nobody likes him.
I don't know comfort.
Frank,
I don't know if he's comfortable at 1-6, but I know what you mean.
Morning. It takes a little while to get going.
I know what you mean. Yeah. I know what you mean, though.
But this is it's not unfamiliar territory for Frank. So he knows. I mean, we all know what Frank Reich is. I mean, as a human being, as a leader. Those guys, in that locker room, everybody. We talked about it in the Colts locker room. Nobody had anything but wonderful things to say about Frank and how this is a business trip, but we're excited to go see Coach Frank. We're excited to go talk to, the guy who meant so much to a lot of these guys. And
drafted some of these guys.
Yeah, you've seen what he's done in this locker room. I can only imagine what it looks like in that Panthers locker room. So, now, Matt, I think you're spot on with what your expectation is.
Guarantee you there. Guarantee.
Guarantee.
There you go, baby. Bill Brooks right there. Bill Brooks. Now, if you're used to hearing and watching Bill at 1 o'clock or I should say at 10 a.m. for a 1 o'clock game. You got to readjust your schedule here.
Yeah.
Because this is the only time all season the Colts play in the 4 o'clock window. So Bill is going to be bumped back a couple of hours on the pregame show. Bill Brooks.
Get a little sleep.
Yeah.
You get a little sleep this time, and then the next week it's no sleep.
Exactly.
You're up real early for that Patriots game.
Enjoy it.
Both extremes.
Bill Brooks starts on the pregame huddle at 3. Casey, or I should say at 1, I beg your pardon. I just got so used to
I started
at 1 o'clock. Casey Vallier on Countdown to Kickoff begins at 3. I think I start at 4.
Yeah, I think so.
I think tell me where to go. All right, but it's the Colts and Panthers. Both teams coming off a grueling game. Obviously, the Panthers won. The Colts with a setback, trying to get back to 500 before the bye week, but one at a time in Carolina on Sunday. And we will talk to you next week, getting ready for the Colts and the Patriots before we head around the globe to Germany to get ready for that game internationally. And we will do it again next Thursday, talking Colts football here on the Official Colts Podcast on YouTube and the Colts Audio Network, brought to you by WynnBET. So long.